Hello and welcome to episode 211 of Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Of course, I am your host, Rick Doherty. My good friend and co-host Sarah Says is back on the show today. Sarah and her son have put together a list of Disney animatronic malfunctions that have gone viral over the years. Not only are we going to have fun laughing at some of these bloopers, but all of these malfunctions give us a little insight into how these animatronics work. Before we get started, make sure that you are subscribed to the Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty YouTube channel. Last month, we produced a 3-hour video special to raise money for the LA Regional Food Bank. It was just one of the things we did with the wildfires in the Los Angeles area. For every dollar that you donated, the LA Regional Food Bank was able to provide 3 meals for people experiencing food insecurity. The theme park community as a whole raised over $9,000, and over 2,000 of those funds were donated after our video hit the internet. We had over 750 views in the first 2 days, which was impressive for a 3-hour video that aired on the weekend during NFL playoffs and the college football national championship game. Unfortunately, the positive karma we created wasn't enough to help Notre Dame win the national championship, but we'll talk about that at a later date. We want to be able to continue doing these types of things. We truly want to build a community and not just have a podcast. The way to make sure that you are a part of everything is to be subscribed to the YouTube channel. Right now, let's get started. Thanks for being here, Sarah.
Thanks for having me back.
So this episode is going to be an idea that we are stealing from your son. And
yes, we are.
he is apparently obsessed with checking out these videos online of animatronics at Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Universal, all of these theme parks, but animatronics that sort of lose their mind, and whatever is going on in the mechanics behind these animatronics, they just start to freak out at different moments. I'm sure all of us who have gone to Disney or theme parks a lot have experienced something like this in person, but of course you catch all of the best ones online, and he helped you compile a list, and I thought we would go over the list of some of your favorites and then talk about some of the times that we have actually experienced them, even though they might not be as funny as the ones that go viral on the internet. So Sarah, why don't you start with one of the animatronics gone wild, as we're going to call it. Happened that you got to check out online.
Yeah, so we've spent many hours watching this one specific YouTube he's obsessed with. So one that we both agreed is one of our favorites is when Ursula's head falls off in the Little Mermaid adventure. That's a great one. He howls when we do that. So yeah, you come around the corner and there's Ursula, but there's not Ursula. Yeah, that's a good one.
You know, the Little Mermaid attraction is always good for like 1 or 2 animatronics losing their mind, but the Ursula animatronic is basically the most impressive one on this ride. And it does move very smoothly when everything is working correctly. So that one time and this went really, really viral when it happened. But that one time when Ursula's head is just dangling from wires, I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be a kid and come around. Ursula's scary enough.
Right? But then there's my kid who's like howling laughing. I mean, it was a video that he was watching, but he's like thinks it's hysterical.
And maybe he would have thought that in person, but I also think that when you're watching a video, you're prepared for what's going to go wrong. But when you just come around that corner, I can imagine that there were kids who just absolutely lost it. And
right.
you know there were a bunch of moms who went up to customer relations and guest relations. You ruined my vacation. My kid is traumatized. So that is a good one, Sarah. Good way
That's
to
a good
start
one.
off the list here.
Yes.
So what's the next one you have?
Okay, the next one that was on the top of our list here is another really, really viral one, and it's when Kylo Ren is like spinning. And I've seen a lot of the viral ones, and they put it to different music. And my son really loves the one where they put it to "Let It Go" from Frozen, and he's just standing there spinning and spinning. Oh, that's the next one that was on the top of our list.
Okay, that is a funny one, and I've seen that. I like when they did "You Spin Me Right Round, Baby Right Round," like a record, baby, right round, round, round. That was top-notch quality entertainment. However, I'm quite a bit older than your son, so I got the reference.
True.
The Kylo Ren animatronic on Star Wars Rise of the Resistance is one of the most finicky, and you can see sometimes it's not moving smoothly, but they still let you go through. But this is one of the major reasons that this ride goes down a lot during the day. And if you've ever gotten Kylo in quote unquote B mode, and that means that you don't even see the animatronic in that room, but he is outside the window on a video screen in one of his little space vehicles, and he's shooting at you. And it is, frankly, like, this is such a good ride. You know, when you did it, I got to ride it with you the first time you did it, and I got to watch your face light up like, this is so amazing. But then I think of all the people who have heard all these stories about this ride and how it's so incredible. And then if you did get something like Kylo in B mode, you might be like, well, I don't know, that was pretty good. Like, the AT-ATs were impressive and some of these other things were pretty cool. But I think seeing that animatronic working at its best is really the best part of that ride. So I feel bad for people who see it breaking down or in B mode. Now, if I saw it spinning in a circle like that, I would go absolutely nuts, and I don't feel bad for those people.
No, that would be like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Okay, so the next one actually is funny because it's from the same ride, and I did not realize Hondo has a B mode too. So there's a video my son really likes of Hondo. Oh no, it's not the same ride. I'm sorry. It's Smuggler's Run. But Star Wars rides. Hondo has a B mode I was not aware of, and my son loves this video of him standing there, and it's in the process of him breaking down, and he literally bends all the way backwards and just stops working. And it's so funny. It's so funny. He just is going and going, and then all of a sudden it's like, and he powers down it, but he doesn't fall forward. He leans backwards. It's a good one.
You know, that does make sense, because thinking back to that animatronic, and I haven't ridden that ride in a while, but he does sort of, you know, he is leaning back because he's looking at the things behind him. And we look at animatronics and we think of them as what they're playing. We think of the character that we are seeing, but actually every animatronic is a bunch of different computers. And if it makes more sense to build it so that it goes backwards when it turns off, that's the way they're going to build it, because you're not supposed to see when it turns off, and we did in this situation. So that's actually kind of interesting. I think that gives you a look into how they build these animatronics, and I'm a little interested in the design of that Hondo one now. When it is working, and this is, like you said, in the queue for Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, if you fast pass it, or lightning lane, or whatever you want to call it this week, or single rider, you don't get to see this animatronic. But if you do the regular queue, you see this animatronic, and It is really, really an impressive one. It was interesting that Disney created an animatronic for a character that I don't think is very popular.
Yeah.
Like it comes from one of the side cartoons, but they were trying to promote those side cartoons as well. You know, it's about integration with Disney Plus, and it is a really, really cool animatronic. So if you're on a vacation and you've kind of, done the lightning lane for Smuggler's Run, and you're still looking like, oh, what do I want to do? We've done everything we really want to do. Actually going through the queue for Smuggler's Run, if it's not too long, seeing this animatronic might be worth your time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's see here. What do we have next? Another one that this is the last one from his list he made with me, and I had a few that I added, but it actually was a video that we saw from Midway Mania, but in Japan. So if you've stood and watched the Barker Mr. Potato Head, he takes his ear off. And in this specific, like, he has a lot of animatronic issues. I've seen a few of these, but this one I've never seen. He takes his ear off, and when he goes to put it back in, he can't get it back in the hole. And like, he just hits himself in the side of the head, and then all of a sudden he just powers down and like drops his ear. It's so good.
That's interesting because that is an effect that they try to do. It's very impressive when it works.
Yeah.
And I guess they built a fail safe into the system so that if he can't get it in there, it doesn't just keep hitting itself over and over and over. I couldn't imagine. I feel like this is one of them that you would see, and at first you would think it was part of the joke. Mm-hmm. Until it starts to power down. Have you ever seen the Mr. Potato Head when the eyes go red?
I've never seen them red. I've seen them blacked out, but I've never seen when they go red.
Blacked out is weird. I've seen them red. It looks like he's drunk. And, the idea of a drunk carnival barker, is so not out of the question. So it is really funny when that happens. But yeah, that is really interesting. I have seen a number of issues with the Mr. Potato Head all around the world.
Oh, yeah.
It is a very, very complicated animatronic. It is also one that if you do Lightning Lane, I think depending on which version throughout the world, if you do Lightning Lane, you might skip that as well. Mm-hmm. I believe at Disneyland, he's right outside, so it doesn't matter.
He is. At California Adventure, he's you can see him from standing on the sidewalk, but you can't really hear what's going on as much. But you would have to go. I've never done a Lightning Lane for that, so I've always walked by him. But I don't know if their cut through goes past him or not. I would think at some point, but I don't know. But you can see him from the sidewalk, so.
So that wraps up your son's list. Now let's move on to some of the ones that you added.
Yes. So one of them is I tell my husband and I tell my son too, I'm like, it's me. And I've seen this one live before. The Hula Girls on Small World. There's always one, at least one that's just and kind of moving or not moving at all, while the other two are like, yeah. I'm the one that does not move.
Or there's sometimes one that is moving 4 times faster than all of the other ones.
That's true too.
And the really great times, those rare animatronic freak out moments where you get the one on this end that's moving 3 times faster, the 2 that are normal, and the one that's really slow.
Yep. So yeah, that's definitely one of my favorites.
But you have to give those Hula Girl animatronics a lot of credit because they have been working for decades and decades. So that can't be easy. Every day, shaking that hula, and they just keep going year after year, and Disney keeps just putting new parts and hoping to string that together. So hopefully we continue to get rides like It's a Small World, that even though they're simple animatronics, we get just hundreds and hundreds of animatronics. You'll notice that as time has progressed, we get more impressive animatronics, but there's only one or two of them on a ride. And I think that that is probably something we're going to address a little later.
Yes.
Getting to Pandora, the world of Avatar. And
Yep.
it is something that I think is a little unfortunate, because I think when you think of the awe of a Disney vacation, that first time you ever saw Disney rides and were blown away by the detail, it was because there were rides like Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, even It's a Small World, the Tiki Room. These are rides or attractions that have tons of animatronics, and they are sacrificing that for one or two mind-blowing animatronics, but not like the sheer grandeur of going into a room filled with moving characters like in Pirates, for example.
Absolutely. Let's see. My next one. I don't know if this counts as an animatronic. I was really debating putting this on my head, but it technically is a robot, and it's the fails when Spider-Man does it in Avengers Campus during the Spider-Man show, when he flies across, like web slings across, and he doesn't always quite make it. We thankfully got to see him in top form, but I have seen some hilarious videos where he goes, and they have a great little like shtick that they do around it when it doesn't work properly. And that's a good one. That's a really good one. I highly recommend everybody look up the Spider-Man fails.
That is an animatronic. Like, Disney sold that as an animatronic. So I think that we have to count it. It has to be included on this list. And it is so impressive when it works.
Yes.
But like you said, when it doesn't, it can get downright like scary, because they fling this thing in the air and you have kids watching. It's one of the most iconic characters in the history of fiction. So if that animatronic hits a wall, like, those kids are going to freak out about that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. I could not even imagine.
But it is so impressive when it works. And yeah, I think about all the times that we got to see it on our trip. And when we saw it in 2021, we were so spoiled. It was even before Magic Keys ever went on sale. It was the week before they went on sale, as a matter of fact. So we could just walk into Avengers Campus when we knew that in 5 minutes there was going to be this show. And we saw it a bunch. We started getting sick of it. We were like trying to make it all the way to the test kitchen, or we had our boarding group for Spider-Man, and we're like, you know, get out of our way. We're trying to
move it.
So we were a tad bit spoiled, but it was really, really cool to see that in top form, because that land had just really opened when we were there.
It did. Yeah. It had literally like just opened not long before. It was, because I mean, yeah, there was still the like wait of people to get into it when we're like booking it for Radiator Springs Racers, and everyone else is like, we're going to Avengers Campus.
Well, we had to get the boarding group for Web Slingers.
That's right.
And I remember every morning, like, we were so into getting that. And basically it's like, I don't know, what would you say? It's a C ticket attraction or a B ticket attraction?
Yeah. I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it because I was really good at it. But it really, it's not it is not an E-ticket at all.
She is really, really good at it too.
It was so fun. Get my arm workout.
I was so happy that you left on Thursday, because on Friday I just got to play against my wife Courtney, and I just destroyed her, and it was at least one win for the week.
It's the only interactive Disney ride I am good at. Like, Any of the Buzz Lightyear stuff? No.
Although your gamer husband, when you finally get to ride it with him and your son,
Oh,
they're going to humiliate you. You are going to know what it
probably.
felt like to be me back in August of 2021.
But see, the difference is they may like whoop me at that ride, but the thing is, I'm not the one who gets off and then complains my arms hurt.
Touche.
I'm just kidding. I love them, but I just think that my son would probably give up about halfway through. Like be really into it the first time, and the next time he'd just be like, "Ugh, "It's so hard," and he'd want to buy all the little accessories to like up your score. That's how he's gonna win.
That's how they do it. That's how they
Yeah.
get you, Sarah. All right, so let's continue with your animatronic fails here.
So for Disney, I have one left on my list of my favorites, and it's a relatively new animatronic, and it's Tiana from Bayou Adventure, because that when she breaks down and she's literally just like RBF, and she's just staring at everyone as they come in. I love it so much. I love it. It's not even an exciting breakdown, but it's so good.
So we are a family-friendly podcast. I would just like to say that means resting bad person face. No, we don't want to say she's a bad
resting
person.
Angry face.
Yeah, we'll
She
go
has resting angry face.
RAF. We'll go with that.
Yes, RAF.
That is funny. So I have a few now that you have gone through your list here. I have a few that I have seen or I have heard from other people that I just want to add. The big one is Elsa on Frozen Ever After in Epcot. Yeah. This ride breaks down more than any other ride at Walt Disney World, and a lot of times it is the Elsa animatronic where you approach in the boat, she sings Let It Go, and then you scoot over and you go backwards. So a couple of the times we've seen it be funny are where she kind of John McCain's, where she doesn't lift her arms at all. They just are sort of by her side. I don't know if that was ableist. I'm sorry. I know he was in a POW camp and that's why he can't move his arms. But she keeps her arms at her side while she's singing this song, so it's a little bit awkward. I've also been in a situation where the timing is off, where you're supposed to move back when she goes, let it go, and then boom, you move back at the same time. And I have been where the timing is off and you kind of sit there and wait for her to finish the song, and then you go back, and that's kind of weird. Yeah, because there's a lot of timing involved in that effect. Because when she says, the cold never bothered me anyway, the fog is supposed to cover you. So if the timing's off even by like a second or two, it can really impact your enjoyment of that ride. However, and this is another Disney breakdown story, but it's not of an animatronic. Back in December, my co-host Maz, also podcast regular Jillian, the three of us were on Living with the Land. Actually, the four of us, because Jillian's mom was there too. We were on Living with the Land, the holiday version, the glimmering greenhouses. And we got stopped. And we were there for a good 15 minutes, not moving. So we started talking to the people behind us. And they said they were on Frozen Ever After that day. And Elsa's face was just red. And it looked like you were just coming up on Satan.
So you could see her eyes and everything still. It's just this.
Nope,
it was just tone. It was just red.
It was
or
just
it was red.
Big red blank void of red as you came up on her. And there have been a lot of those Elsa fails. There are times where, unlike when I saw her, she's kind of flailing her arms, they're not making sense. They're moving the whole time. that they're moving before they're supposed to, and then when she's telling you to let it go, they're back down at her side. There are times where she's not moving at all and the music is going. So that animatronic has definitely seen better days. And then when you look internationally and you see some of the Elsa animatronics that are in other parks throughout the world, and we get this projection screen version in Epcot, it's a little unfortunate. You know, listen, it's a people eating ride, so Disney's not going to want to just shut it down and fix it. Sort of the same problem with Star Wars Rise of the Resistance. We've been talking about this for a while now, that it would be nice if Star Wars Rise of the Resistance could just go down for 2 months. They could fix the cannons that haven't worked since like the first week. They could fix the Kylo Ren animatronic. They could do all of these things. The problem is that we're all spoiled. And if you're taking this once in a lifetime vacation, I'm not even saying once in a lifetime vacation people are spoiled. Like, you go once, you want to make sure you're getting the full experience.
Absolutely.
But if you're paying $6,000 to $10,000 for a vacation and you don't get to ride this cool Star Wars ride, you're going to be upset. I wish there was a way that they could make Hollywood Studios like a cheaper ticket and say, here's the deal. You're going to pay less for your vacation, but you're not going to have access to Star Wars Rise of the Resistance for that trip because we just have to fix it. And it would be nice if they could fix Frozen Ever After, but could you imagine having a 10-year-old daughter and you get into the car for the 15-hour drive down to Florida, and at the beginning you have to tell her, now we're not going to get to see Elsa. She'd lose her mind. She'd punch you in the face.
You know, I would not doubt that. But she would. It would be horrible. And it's like, and a lot of people going on vacation who aren't regular people, I mean, they're regular people, but aren't regulars at the Disney parks that don't know about this stuff. I mean, how many people go their first time? Like my first time to Walt Disney World, I had no idea you needed to have dining reservations because I went to Disneyland and you at that point did not need dining reservations. So we got there and there was so much stuff I had no idea, which thankful for the concierge at our hotel because that man saved the trip for us. But I couldn't even imagine now and having a kid. I mean, I was 20 years old.
I remember in 2018 when we were on our vacation and it was Friday of our vacation and about 2:00 in the afternoon in Disney's Animal Kingdom, and we were about to park hop over to Epcot to wrap up our vacation on Friday night. And I just saw this woman with a big open map and she said, yeah, I want to leave soon too, but before we go, I want to see that Pandora. And this was 1 year after Pandora opened. So she was like, oh yeah, I want to leave soon too, but I want to ride the 2 rides that have 3-hour waits.
Oh my gosh. Yikes. Yeah, that's rough. It's rough.
So getting back to The Little Mermaid, here is one that I have seen it freak out in person, but I've also even seen a funnier version online. And that's at the very end when Eric and Ariel get married and everybody's waving at them from the sea. Sometimes Triton goes absolutely berserk. And I've seen him go mid-range berserk where he's just kind of shaking a little bit like it's cold. But I've seen videos online of him having like a full-blown seizure.
Oh my gosh.
And he's holding the trident and like the trident shaking like it makes it look like he's so mad. And it's like, no, by the end of the movie, he's okay with it.
Right? Oh my gosh, that sounds so dangerous.
It does. It looks like something is going to like fall off. Like if there was something loose on it, that he's just going to throw it across the room.
Oh my gosh.
I'm trying to think of some of the other times I've seen animatronics that were working less than reputably. You'd think it would happen more on Carousel of Progress, and I know it
There
happens
are some
sometimes.
hilarious ones for Carousel of Progress, though, especially the dad. I don't know what's up with the dad, but there have been ones like his arm is like all twisted, funky. There was one that was even in one of the past, like that they had. I can't even
Incarnations.
remember what the other, but they're so funny. They're so random too. But that's another one that their animatronics are really old.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is an attraction that I think, just the other day I saw somebody post that the hill they would die on at Walt Disney World is Carousel of Progress. Like, that's the thing that if they got rid of it, they would be done with Disney World. Now, I think they better start getting ready because
Yeah.
it's an expensive attraction to run all day with all of those animatronics. We have just spent the last half hour talking about how animatronics freak out and they need constant work. So I don't know if we're going to have Carousel of Progress for all that much longer. The way that Disney has shown that nostalgia means absolutely zero to them at this point. It is impressive to me that they keep it running as smoothly as they do. So maybe until that happens, maybe it will be safe. Have you ever seen anything freak out on Hall of Presidents?
No, I have not seen anything freak out on Hall of Presidents.
I think we need, before they get rid of Hall of Presidents, and I think it might be time. Even as a
Yeah.
history nerd who loves this attraction, it might be time to get rid of Hall of Presidents. I think before it happens, though, we deserve like a really good freak out.
Right. It's like a presidential mosh pit.
Like all of a sudden, just Jefferson is like had it with Adams. He's like, you know what? That's it. Like, it would be historically accurate. I have seen,
Yes.
however, sometimes on Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, when he goes to stand up and the top of his body stays sitting. So, like, he stays
I've
in
heard of
that
that.
sitting position.
Yeah. He's like bent over. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've never seen any video or anything of that, but I have heard of that happening. I forgot about that.
I was impressed by his ab strength. Because
Right. That core strength. He's just like, yeah.
there's no way I could do that. I could stay in that position.
Right. Not for that whole speech.
It is a long speech, too. So, Sarah, do you have any more animatronics before we end this one?
Not at Disney, but there were a few honorable mentions at Universal. One thing with Universal, though, is we've talked about a little bit, just not on the podcast, but talked about, is they're very much reliant on screens, a lot of screens. So a lot of their things that go down are screens, and it's absolutely bonkers depending on where you are. So one thing that happened to my family is when we were on the Gringotts ride, and it completely died. All the screens. So you could hear all the words, everything. The ride was still going, but it was pitch black. And then you could kind of see the sconces because you're supposed to be in there, right? So that was definitely very, very bizarre because you hear everything happening, but you don't see anything happening. It's almost like in Indiana Jones, where there's parts that don't work on the ride, but you're still going through it. So that was definitely one that we did that was kind of bizarre. Though one thing that's cool, I don't know, when a ride stops working when you're on it at Disney, do they immediately let you get back on, or do they give you a pass to come back later?
They usually give you a lightning lane or a fast pass or
Okay.
whatever it's called at the time, yeah.
Okay. So what they did for us is they basically stopped the ride and they drove it through. Like, the whole thing didn't break down. It was just the screens, and they rebooted. But what they did is they had us all exit off and immediately go through this little door in the side that the employees go in and get right back on, like cut the entire line and get right back on the ride and go again. And then it worked and it was awesome. But I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Let's see, what's another good one I have not seen, but I've seen lots of videos from my son, is the Jaws animatronic on that ride. I've never ridden that ride because I don't think it existed when I went, but that's another one that I've seen a lot of fails for. but he's also in water. So, and then what was the last one? Oh, I've seen a few really good ones for, it's not called Jurassic Park anymore. It's Jurassic World, right? The boat ride.
It's the Jurassic River Expedition, I think.
Okay. So that one, so apparently there's like a giant boss battle, as I call it, between the Indominus Rex and the T-Rex towards the end of it before you dip. And I've seen some really funny videos where either one of them is fighting with nothing or they just don't come out at all. It's just like major like buzzkill. I was like, oh, that's so sad. But yeah, Universal has some pretty good ones, but sadly most of theirs are just screens not working and like the Microsoft logo coming up or like the blue screen of death.
Sarah, this was such a fun episode. I'm glad your son came up with it. I hope he at least listens, likes, and subscribes.
Well, he does like to like and subscribe on YouTube. So normally I have to like sit there and be like, what are you doing? But I think we'll like and subscribe to this one.
Next week, we're going to take a slight break from theme parks to expand our horizons with a different travel subject. My guest will be travel planner, photographer, and author Ralph Velasco, who is known as the Continental Drifter. We will talk about mindful travel. Even when we talk about theme parks, we often find ourselves focused on our plans or going from one ride to another and from one dining reservation to another lightning lane. Ralph is going to remind us why we travel and what we really remember when we return home. That will be next Thursday on Tall Guy Talks Travel with Rick Doherty. Until then, have a great week.